Rostelecom's new strategy, we decided to hold it here in Skolkovo as the place which is associated with the digital transformation currently taking place in our society and communities. And we decided to augment this presentation telling you about the project for the deployment of the 5G trial network. We thought it would be interesting, particularly since it is already operational. And so the strategy is going to be presented to you by the members of the management board of Rostelecom, Vladimir Kirienko, Senior Vice President, Sergei Anokhin, who's our CFO, and myself, Mikhail Osievsky. Well, I would like to remind us that the previous strategy was approved in 2014, and it was brought down to the real life, and as is usually the case, the macroeconomic guidance which is being put into the basis of the business models became quite remote from the real situation. We ended up being in some of the circumstances which we couldn't have any plans for, so it is obvious that the financial streams reflected in the strategy are strongly different, and the technological changes are taking place at such a pace, and the markets are changing, and so it has become obvious that the strategy requires transformation. But what is very important to note that on the way from transforming from the fixed line operator into the modern telecom services operator, Rostelecom has covered a lot of ground. And I would like to remind us of the things that we have achieved. But before I do this, I would ask everyone to register in our Wi-Fi, because that would be quite useful, for our future work today. So please, those who haven't yet got registered, to do so. We continue working with the four main client groups. The biggest one is retail. Almost half of our income we derive from providing services to household and individuals. We have considerably increased our market share. 12 million clients are using internet access services. We've grown by 14%. An enormous breakthrough we achieved in the IPTV services, and a whole group of products amassed around it, and so we are certainly an undoubted leader. We've been actively growing our presence in the mobile services market together with our partners Tele2, and we are almost closing in on 1 million subscribers, which includes individuals and corporate clients, but individuals in the first place. And over these years, we've been able to seriously develop our infrastructure, which provides access to our services to the households, and we've got enormous potential to move forward. Now, speaking about the work we do in the B2B segment, we've got more than 1 million clients. Almost half of them are connected through fiber, which is quite notable because the models that we are going to describe later today require high speed and a big traffic throughput. We've actively moved forward in establishing the modern infrastructure for storing and processing data. This is more than 1,000 racks, and we're going to further deploy and develop this network throughout the whole of Russia. We continue being the key entity which provides services to the government entities. I'm sure that you are watching what is going on in the market. During the past few years, we've been providing more and more services both to the federal government and agencies. We've considerably developed the government services portal and the services integrated into it. So I'm sure that many of you have been using the mobile operator service, and I'm one of them as a customer, and so we do believe that this is a real nucleus of the contemporary government infrastructure, and we are offering to various Russian municipalities and administrative territories a whole set of different digital technologies. We, while keeping up the modern key infrastructure, continue to service more than 2,000 of our partners in the sector. We note a strong interest in the throughput traffic growing further in the Europe-Asia axis, and we can proudly state that during the past 18 months, 12 months, we've undertook a great step in developing the project operator for an operator, and today we provide service to a considerable infrastructure that is being operated by our mobile partners. The throughput capacity of our network is also growing. We continue strengthening it further. We develop the infrastructure in the regions which previously hadn't had such opportunities. We connected Kamchatka, Sakhalin, and Magadan, and this year, maybe not most populated area, but from the geopolitical point of view, it will be an important feat when we will connect the Far Eastern islands and the Far East of Russia. And in terms of developing the infrastructure further, we shall continue this effort. We have consistently been growing our revenue per one employee. It is not as notable as in the cell communication network, but in terms of the need to provide support for a big infrastructure, particularly in as far as not so densely populated areas are concerned, we believe this is a very important track to follow, and we shall follow it. And overall, during the past few years, we've been able, in terms of all of the business lines, to save almost 27 billion rubles. We continue to optimize our headcount. In 2014, we had about 160,000. Currently, we got 133, and we believe that we still have a way to go, and we shall mention it further. And we certainly continue to optimize our non-core assets, out of which the real estate is the most important to solve. An important document which came out last year and affected in a great way our midterm development plan, it was the digital economy program. We participated in putting together this program, as well as we are deeply involved in executing it, because we are a center of competency in as far as the information infrastructure part of it is concerned. So we are actively offering to expand this program, and in some foreseeable future there will appear new areas, one of which, the smart city, is where, together with the Ministry of Construction of Russia, we are taking the lead initiative. And now switching over to our vision of what kind of company Rostelecom should become within the next 5 years, we have identified for ourselves a short statement: a digital partner for the households, for businesses and the government, anticipating our ability to offer a broad set of traditional telecom services as well as new ones, IT services and digital services, for all of our customer groups. In the backbone of our strategy, as always, there is a foundation, not just 3 corners, but 4 corners, which we will further elaborate upon. The first and the most important one is our customers. It's an obvious model, which is being followed not only by our segment, but also by many others, in trying to establish an ecosystem with an attempt, while basing upon certain anchor product, to offer a new area of interaction, to submerge oneself into other parts of the purse. This is indeed a competitive environment, but we believe that having a broad number of our customers and our infrastructure capacities, we would be in a position to establish such broad partnerships and collaborations in order to move towards the target which we set ourselves as a priority. The other three are an absolute necessity to implement this customer-centric service model, which is further development of our infrastructure, establishing technological platform, a very broad one. Undoubtedly, this is about transforming our employees and growing the share of employees with a good IT competencies as well as improving efficiencies. And further on, we will look into a detailed discussion of each of these four corners, and my colleagues shall take on the medley, and towards the end we will answer your questions. Vladimir, please. Good afternoon once again. I would like to touch upon certain basic areas which we want to focus upon within the mass segment, corporate and business areas of our operations. These are the key drivers where we are planning to develop Rostelecom's operations, and that gives us confidence in our tomorrow, the confidence that we will be able to retain our place under the sun in the new digital world while trying to bring ourselves as close as possible to the customer, because the customer is the base of our business. And by saying customer, this is not only the mass segment and retail segment, this is big corporates, this is government entities. Customer doesn't consume technology separately. A customer consumes values and services that is being given. Nobody's interested in the fixed line internet or a super modern high-speed channels. People are interested in values and the information which they're able to get for themselves, for their business and for their everyday life. In 2018, for the first time, we introduced into the corporate KPI such an indicator as NPS, Net Promoter Score, which is an effective indication of the number of people who are ready to recommend us against those who are not able to undertake the same kind of activities. We measure NPS by two measures, top-down and bottom-up. Top-down enables us to measure our position in the key industry players market, and that is more of a strategic kind of a marker which defines the development in the future. Bottom-up is the key measure for an everyday fine-tuning of our everyday run-of-the-mill operations. We measure it in every branch, and we understand that we've got a strong potential to grow. For the first time, in the beginning of 2018, we can confidently state that we are in the further development of what we've set ourselves to achieve. And so if we take a look at the main aspects of working with the customer satisfaction, we can identify several things. The key one is migration into fiber optics. Now, since we are a historical telephonic company, we've got quite a big network of the copper wires, and that means that in our time we used the ADSL technology, which in the beginning of 2000 was in compliance with what the customers wanted. But today we feel that the technology market is developing much faster, and we need to respond to this challenge. So we support quite a big migration into this program for the corporate customers, because unfortunately in our network there are still customers which have been connected to 512 kilobyte per second, and we see that when switching our customers to fiber optics, ARPU grows very significantly. To us it is very important, for customer centricity and a single throughput service to encompass all of our customers. We're introducing the standards of customer centricity, the standards of service in call centers, and we are trying to move further. For the first time in 2018, we already started to respond to the customers' questions in the social networks and messengers. We also work through chat bots, because customers define the form and the format of cooperation. It's not us who are forcing the services. We need to adjust ourselves to what the customer is expecting. So raising the speed to all of the customers who are connected to the fiber as well. We are stepping out of the short circuit in terms of the motivating customers towards the higher tariffs. My personal view is that we cannot incentivize a person to switch over to 100 megabytes per second or 200 of it, because if he doesn't understand the value, because the key change here is for us to be able to offer a high tariff, but at the same time to see what kind of functionality we can offer to a customer. For example, at a corporate business segment, we are raising the tariff twice, and we offer to the services of a virtual data storage, because the customers then realize how much they need that. We fully reorganize our customer support and technical support. That includes the number of installations which we do within the 24 hours of the application received. That includes the number of the repeat applications, the quality and the customer satisfaction. We transform the IT systems of Rostelecom, because Rostelecom is a gigantic company which has inherited all of the IT systems which had previously been in Svyaz. So we need to go through that integration cycle. But unfortunately, we don't have any time to do that in a consistent way. So we do it simultaneously by introducing the best practices that we find in the market. Now, if we talk about the retail segment, we look at the key needs of customers and we adapt our offering to such needs. From our point of view, each of us has a certain set of purely humane requirements. A house to live in. This is safety and security, which we include information security as well as the household security, education, health, and entertainment. So for every piece of it, we offer what we can do. So how does it look in terms of the Rostelecom products? You see the current product line that Rostelecom is offering. And so for entertainment, we introduce there the tariffs which are special for the gamers, the gaming tariffs. And let me remind us that based on the results of 2017, that was one of the most popular tariffs. The highly marginal one for the retail segment. Hundreds and thousands of subscribers connect to it and as a rule buy acquiring additional services along with that. Similarly, we are developing entertainment in as far as video and OTT services are concerned. At present, our APTV service is an undoubted leader in the domestic market. So the kind of functionality which can be provided by interactive TV hugely, is winning against the cable operators and satellite operators, because it is important for us to demonstrate these values that we are able to guarantee. In 2018, we are going to launch the Android platform, which will create an ecosystem around IPTV, because IPTV, we believe, is one of the key services, an anchor kind of a services for retail segment, because it's very easy to connect to it. The educational services, e-commerce, and many others. Recently, we've launched projects related to education because we see how strong is the demand for online education by our customers. At present, the market volume is assessed at 5 to 7 billion rubles, and we see the dynamics of the way it goes. And by 2022, the online educational market size will be at about 12 billion capitalization. So we believe that we can truly take up from 10 to 15% in it. Recently, we held an online quiz in the English language. We had 150,000 participants, our Rostelecom customers, who connected to this quiz, and we see how eagerly people are going for such thing. Whenever we talk about safety and security, we understand that safety and security should be acquired together with the internet consumption services. So very actively we're developing the antivirus services. All of the services we offer under the subscription model, you don't have to pay one-off big amount of money. You acquire it in a package with main services, 100, 150 rubles of an additional payment to the tariff, and you know that your internet is safeguarded. And you can fine-tune the access modality for your children so as to guard them from any violent contents. This is very much in demand than the cloud services, and we believe that telecom operators should cover all of the needs that a customer might have in the telecom industry market. For the first time, in the end of 2017, we launched the FMC service in St. Petersburg. Very soon, we're going to launch it in Chelyabinsk. So our target before the end of 2018 to identify an effective model under which all of our customers will be consuming Rostelecom services in one billing and would be easily able to add and rank new services. So we're developing the Rostelecom ecosystem, which can be traced through all of the additional services. Insurance. To us, actually, it was quite a discovery. I mean, the fact that we know more about a customer than the market, because we know the location, residence, we know the history of purchases, we know the kind of housing, and we realize that it can be very easily complemented to insurance. So in the first half of the year, we will launch a joint project with DTB Insurance, which will enable us to insure apartments and housing, and we will put it into the service model. It's an on-premise solution. If you are living on vacation, you can switch it on. If you come back and you believe that you don't no longer need to insure it from any flooding or fires, you can quickly switch it off in your personal account. So let me remind you that MVNO will exceed 1 million subscribers very soon. So we believe that the demand for such a service is very much sought after. So whenever we talk about a comprehensive kind of a service, we are aware that it is easy to offer everything and at once rather than building a package. And so one of the ways to develop the retail segment will be capturing the new housing developments. And in 2018, we have already done several projects in this. So what is the approach? A very simple one. When major residential quarters are being developed, such as condominiums, we first enter into collaboration with the developer by laying down all of the optical channels, by installing the video surveillance of the courtyard areas, then the sensors which measure electricity and water consumption. Then we install the fiber optics and the fixed line which is connected to the apartment. And so a customer, when moving in, doesn't have any need to think about any additional functionalities. The project has demonstrated a very high level of success, whereas in the standard case, a period of our services penetrating take about 2 to 3 years until the time we reach the economic viability in terms of our services. So in new housing development, we're able to achieve the same kind of result within 6 months. So we almost improve fourfold the efficiency of such projects, and the loyalty of customers to Rostelecom considerably exceeds all of our expectations. So we move further on. We promote such services into the smart city infrastructure. So you move into a new house, you receive an apartment, you've got internet, you've got TV, you know who called your door because the video camera records, who is outside of the door. You can take a look at the cameras which are watching over the courtyard if you want to make sure that your kid is there. You've got a smart drive-in, and so we built this like an ecosystem. When we integrate it into our smart city ecosystem, which is also being run as part of the major projects with the government as part of the Rostelecom contribution, and I will tell you more about it. Now, over to the corporate business. The principle stays, ecosystem. We're doing our best to define the needs of our customers and to meet these needs according to the way businesses are developing. This is security. Today, a very fast development technology on the one hand leads to a great amount of data which is stored in private clouds, in public clouds, the data exchange. So security becomes a key indicator for telecom operators. Security becomes a key feature to be able to store and safeguard data. The legal branch in the country also moves towards that, because that is definition of the critically important nodes and parameters, and so the obligation of the owner of this data to provide security. We're deploying the Wi-Fi networks. Currently, there's one of the very much in demand kind of a project for the small and medium businesses. Corporate TV, organically developing from our interactive TV service. There are certain caveats, because usually hotels and bars, they require a little bit of a different content. For example, together with Match TV channel, we are launching the broadcasting, which in high definition, the so-called the World Cup in football, which will be available to all of our customers in retail as well as for the small and medium businesses. We are aware that the needs in a business, particularly for small and medium business, is defined by the box solutions, and so we're looking for a scenario whereby we would be distributing what we offer within 3 segments. Speaking about the small business, this is our leadership in the small and medium business, because we are providing a boxed kind of a solution, a kind of product which can be very easily acquired through one click and get the necessary services. In 2017, we launched a package which is called B+, which unites 6 main services: video surveillance, Wi-Fi, virtual PBX, and many others. So customers themselves make up their mind what they need and buy these in a package. So currently we see this avalanche of demand for the service. So small businesses is much simpler than selecting such services individually. You don't have to buy a camera separately. You don't have to think about where you're going to store information. You simply acquire such a service and you completely forget about any telecommunication problems that you might have. We also build a separate business area for major customers. A major customer and a proper organizational work with a major customer requires a serious reorganization inside Rostelecom. One has to acknowledge that for many years we worked only on the incoming stream, which means that having a monopoly, Rostelecom has been waiting for customers to come. But that particular practice was justified until everybody needed a fixed line telephone. But the world changed. It has changed a long time ago. And we had to really catch things up. But I can tell you that we have successfully implemented Sprint during the past 6 months. We identified top 100 customers in every region, top 100 customers in every industry. Now personal managers work with them. We understand what kind of needs each customer has. So this core principle is to develop a deep understanding of the needs of an individual business and being able to offer a turnkey kind of a service. And I will later on tell you more about it. Whenever we talk about the corporate business, we need to identify several things apart from the already existing infrastructure and communication channel. We need to identify the key competitive advantages. In our case, certainly the heart of our system is the cloud, whereas 2 to 3 years ago we began with simple services such as co-location, which is effectively providing space in data centers in order for our customers to do what they needed. Currently we are evolving towards a fully virtualized racks. And let me quote a few figures. Whereas a standard rack in Moscow costs 50,000 rubles a month. I mean, just a square meter, a little bit less than that even. A customer comes, leases it, and so your task is just to provide electricity to it, air conditioning, and that is almost it, because that is where your responsibility ends. So the second derivative, basically, from real estate lease. Virtualized rack, 1 million rubles, so 20 times more, and the profit margin grows. And what is particularly pleasant for me to note is that at the end of 2017 and 2018, we are implementing a project related to virtualization, where multifold we will increase our margin from it, and we will do that through applying domestic solutions, because we've got IT-Onyx as a portfolio company, which is a well-known competitor to VMware company, which does virtualization. Recently, we've launched one of the biggest VDI solutions, which provides a remote desktop function. We've localized and implemented more than 20,000 desktops simultaneously throughout the whole country, together with the Federal Tax Service. So the data processing center, deep competencies in virtualization, with added services on top, with developing a private cloud which is protected, securely protected under all of the standards, is our key development driver. We maintain our leadership position. Currently we're number one. We've got more than 5,000 racks, and we're planning to have more than 10,000 of them by 2022. Quite possibly we will be growing even faster than that, because the demand for such services exceeds the supply. In Q4 2017 we've introduced a new data center, Kurchatovsky, 900 racks, which principally is a very big one in terms of the existing scales. And I can tell you that we have completed contracting already, and in April and May we will have a completely filled data center, not only with equipment. This equipment has been fully virtualized, and we already are looking at new sites to develop further for such data centers. So what is particularly vital is that we have completed the overall construction effort. Udomle data center, it is also called Mendeleev data center, together with the Rosatom, the biggest data center in Europe, 5,000 racks. So we are beginning to functionally fill it, and so we see the potential for further growth here. Information security as the second area for developing corporate and government businesses. So the need to comply with the requirements of the government regulators and stability, the security of data for major corporate businesses led to the service model whereby the information security services are being provided is becoming the most important and vital one. Why? Very simply, cyber hackers, they're not just acting in the daylight when everybody is at action station. They're not working 5.8, they're working 24/7. At any time, an attack can be launched. Based on our practice, The most often happening DDoS attacks, virus attacks case, IP substitution, takes from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the point in time when your employees are not at their place, when they cannot respond expediently from the point in time of penetration to when the important information is lost. It just takes a few seconds. So a very properly planned attack can be done within 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, which would lead to a degradation of services or to an important information being lost. So it is very important to be able to provide such a service 24/7. So we have established an information security center, which is one of the biggest security data centers in Russia, 60 employees there, which 24/7 are monitoring all of the network. I mean, honestly speaking, it is much simpler for us to do that as opposed to other operators, because we see 60% of the mainstream communications in this country, which means that any attack, such as DDoS, we see at its budding stage, and we can respond very quickly. And the biggest banking structures and financial institutions today are our customers. We are growing and developing this competency, and we believe we're already a long-time leader in it, but we believe that more than 50% of the market is what we offer in terms of the DDoS attack protection. We want to develop further. We want to offer penetration tests, because in order to understand that your system is vulnerable, you first have to be convinced in that. So senior executives and business owners are always being told to stay complacent unless something happens. So we offer friendly penetration tests, and that enables us to sell such services quite well. So the Information Security Office was set up in 2017. The revenue from it is at several hundred millions of rubles. So in 2018, we will be beyond the 1 billion level of revenue, because the demand from our customers is big. And that is a good entry for Rostelecom to be able to position its competitive advantages in the digital economy age. Well, I've briefly touched upon the topic of complexity and comprehensive services, because small businesses and businesses as such are confronted by the need to regularly update their information infrastructure, which is a very capital-intensive process. If you're a small business and you need to buy 10 servers, you will be given the highest price in the market. If you're a big integrator, a telecom company, which buys 1,000 of them, usually the difference is multiple. So we switch over to the function of a comprehensive service. We analyze together with the customer what his or her business requires. We provide the design together, and we then purchase and invest into developing such an infrastructure, starting from the networking equipment all the way to the infrastructure equipment, quite often all the way to the end devices, because we buy computer workplaces, video conferencing, and we provide that as part of the service model, because the customer is then made sure that the SLA quality is guaranteed. In case, because of any reason, the needs grow, then this is our headache to adapt and to substitute these functionalities with greater efficiencies. We also integrate it into the Rostelecom cloud, any software, for the corporate information system, government information system that customers use, and we also provide that under the subscription model. We've got a lot of Russian domestic solutions when a customer simply asks us to extend contractual relationship based on the existing model. They're asking, please, let's develop our relationship further. I'm ready to pay a certain amount of money a month, so could you please scale out the number of licenses? It doesn't make a difference to us. It could be licenses from international vendor, Russian vendor. We immediately take into account whatever is involved in increasing the number of channels and scaling it out. And so the typical workplace is one of the projects that appears here. We structure information in advance, we define the list of available services, and provide all of it to a customer. Operatorship market. One should definitely use our key advantages in the market. There are several of them. The first one is the biggest trunk network in the country, the best in terms of its throughput, the best in terms of its topology and organization. Second, human capital. A big number of very professional employees, communication employees, which know exactly how the network is organized, how the fiber is organized. So we decided to run several projects. The first one is an operator for an operator. In 2017, for the first time, we came out into the market on a competitive basis, an open market for providing services on a fiber basis for the big troika of the operators. And I would like to say that success didn't wait for long to meet us, because we have got several macro regions where we're able to amass the whole package. We are servicing all of the fiber optics of all of the big four operators. The economy of scales works in a linear way because we are maintaining the same kind of crews for our own needs. It's very easy for us to scale it for the needs of the big troika because the topology of the location of the sites is the same. Everybody covers the same kind of territory here and there. So this is the first project, and we plan to develop it both in terms of the fiber optics as well as the website service. The second area is monetization of our own infrastructure. Whereas in the past, we used to wait until somebody will come to us to provide them a service so that they could put their cable into the underground collectors. Today we offer a turnkey service. From point A to point B, we lay down the cable, we do all of the permitting, and we guarantee that the level of service is going to meet the best possible standards. Transnational and trunk pipelines. First of all, this is the Europe-Asia transit. In terms of geography, to connect Hong Kong, Beijing to Frankfurt as the main IX of the internet exchange points, the shortest possible route passes through Russia. For a long time in Russia, we didn't make any use of it. So nowadays, the biggest part of it passes in the marine way, through the Indian Ocean, through the Mediterranean. That takes more time, and it is much more complicated, but there hasn't been any alternative. So we started investing into it in 2017. We implemented 3 channels, 100 gigabyte per second for professionals. This is a very serious equipment in terms of the spectrum density. And so the project was launched in April 2017. In November 2017, we completed it. Also in November 2017, we have completely sold all of this capacity. As in 2018, we are building 10 100 gigabyte per second channels. So we'll achieve 2 terabytes a second this year. And I can tell you that the market potential is up to 10 terabyte, and we're targeting this particular level. So we shall continue developing this business line as well. Smart cities. Russian territories, big cities and municipalities understand that managing a municipal ecosystem requires new digital technologies. So the specialty of Rostelecom is not only that we know what needs to be implemented, we're ready also to act as a financial partner. We're ready to invest into building this infrastructure and to offer it under a service model. Whereas we could start as a safety security office, and our office used to be called Secure City. That was the fast response system. Then we went into the road safety, video surveillance. Today we are moving into the smart city as such. We are implementing the energy efficiency solutions for the utility companies, the lighting, beautification from municipality all the way to the housing. So all of the data that is being collected inside the city is valuable, and one has to be able to process it properly. Now, in terms of the collaboration, in the case of Moscow city, we use video imaging from the building entrance cameras and the apartment entrance cameras, which enables one to quickly find a child which is lost or identify a criminal who is wanted. And that is being very much added with the synergies through the data centers that we have and the proper analytics that we have organized. We were able to establish the system of storing the facial images because we understand the biometry and the time frame for that. So we're able to extend the time of storage from 5 days to 100 days without our customers having to spend anything. So smart cities is a whole separate area into which we invest, because we would expect as a minimum 50% growth in it until 2022. We see new areas of business development, connecting them with the smart hospitals, smart educational institutions, connecting them into the overall service ecosystem. We were talking about innovations in the beginning of my presentation. It is impossible to invent everything on your own. Innovation is a partnership. Innovation is, tolerance for risk. So to ourselves, we have defined this following formula. 1% of the corporate revenue we will direct annually into these areas that we're interested in. Today, there are 5 of them. Network virtualization as the main driver to reduce cost and support our infrastructure. Artificial intelligence to process and analyze data. Industrial Internet of Things. as the basic instrument to improve efficiency of our customers and partners, cybersecurity and biometrics. Now, how are we going to do that? We are looking into M&A deals, consortium, partnership. We are ready to consider investing into the existing solutions, as well as we are ready to take the joint risk with startup acceleration approach together with Skolkovo and with the Internet Initiative Fund. We have started the startup funnel. In 2015 we held the first accelerator platform, and as a result of it we have defined the project where we're ready to invest and let these technologies try themselves, because we believe that a proper balancing between investments into the future and the readiness to take risks is the core for the company to further carry and uphold its technological leadership. And now let's pass the microphone to Sergei Anokhin. Thank you, Vladimir. Let me tell you about the next three components and the elements which were put into the foundation of our strategy. Without doubt, in order to be able to achieve a very ambitious and innovative commercial strategy, we find it extremely important to support it at the technological platform that it is always going to be reliant upon, as well as provide to it the team which is willing to go and do it. And so we have introduced this particular component into quite a significant status. And moreover, apart from internal challenges, i.e. that we need to adapt ourselves and to provide this team with the necessary competencies and provide them with a tool set to implement the strategy, is no secret. There are external challenges which shape the market environment, and it is appropriate to note that there is a new generation that is coming into the labor market, and these are individuals with totally different kind of views in terms of what they're interested to do and the way what they do has to be organized and how the working environment should look like. So it is very important to be able for us to adjust ourselves and to offer the kind of conditions which will attract them and retain them in our company. And so without doubt, the competition for people with new competence, with digital skills in such areas as cybersecurity, there's a very strong fight going on. There are very few centers like that, but nevertheless it is very important to stay competitive in this market segment. So what is the way we are planning and we are solving this objective? We are following in two tracks. The first one, we are creating the kind of an environment which would attract and the conditions which would attract the people from the market that we're interested in, which would enable them to really achieve efficiency in the company as well as to realize the kind of a potential that both the company can offer and these individuals may have. On the other hand, to offer the tool set in order for these people to allow to grow professionally and offer them various educational programs, training programs, and incentivize them to do better. It is also important to note here that we are beginning to already work with not only with mature, competent market experts. We're definitely looking for such people, but we put our bet upon young people because we're offering training programs for school kids. We are trying to promote the kind of technologies and skills which they may find useful in the future, expecting them to create this pipeline that we'll be able to feed ourselves with in terms of our professional business. And so we plan to enter into the top 5 most favored employers amongst the companies who work in the IT cluster. But at the same time, we remain mindful of the need to continue improving our operational efficiency. And like it has already been mentioned, we have achieved some great results during the past few years, but we're setting ourselves another ambitious task to improve our labor productivity and to raise by additional 40% revenue per one employee, so as to reduce the wage fund in terms of our operational cost. And so at the same time, all of this should be done simultaneously with a structural set of changes, because the share of employees with digital competences should significantly grow. But at the same time, we must be able to improve efficiency and, in terms of the structure of the company, to reduce the functionalities that will be substituted by automation of different processes. And so further improvement here can be achieved by additional 10 to 15%. Speaking about the environment, about the initiatives that we plan to be able to make people interested in staying with the company, we're talking about the customization of career opportunities, customization of incentivization model depending upon the level of skill set that the employees have, and that means to introduce and to transform the whole of the HR functionality into the digital communication model insofar as certain organizational issues are concerned, communication instruments based on the digital solutions inside the company itself. We are further developing the initiative to flatten our organizational structure, moving from complex hierarchical structures to more flexible and more dynamically project-based kind of the teamwork, which we believe should support the cross-functionality and cross-segmentation, which is very important because this is something that we've been quite successful in putting together the throughput complex kind of products which our customers find extremely convenient and useful. But at the same time, we put quite a big emphasis upon the HR training, because here we're providing the opportunity to all of our employees, and particularly those whose competency and core activities may lose a certain importance because of the digitalization trends and automation processes, to provide such people an opportunity to re-identify themselves in the new digital environment. So we have started the program which is made up of several stages aimed at developing new competences. So the overall the orientational programs is something that all of the employees will go through, and further on, based upon the needs that we will see and based upon individual preferences, several development tracks are going to be offered whereby people will be able to go through several levels of immersion into the new competences, thus finding themselves as useful and effective employees in new areas, in new products, and in new processes. So, apart from that, naturally, we already have a well-established program to develop management skills and developing certain basic competences. Now, speaking about the third element of our strategy, which is technological platform, it is made up of a network infrastructure and our IT landscape and our IT platform. In the network infrastructure, we are looking at several objectives, which is support the amount of traffic growth that we see in the market. There are many drivers to it in different segments. This also includes introduction of cloud technologies within the service model. This is also an appearance of heavy content and traffic through 4K, and we will look at some of the things like this. We already have a commercial pilot area where we've deployed such technologies, virtual reality, video surveillance. It all leads to the need for the company to support such an infrastructure for it to be able to provide such services and products. And also an important element, the transit trunk lines with a big commercial potential. But at the same time, the emphasis is gradually moving towards the infrastructure optimization, where you can identify several areas as well. An important element is being able to substitute the remaining copper networks to the fiber, because during the next 5 years we would like to achieve the fiberization level up to 80% or more, so that all of the new connections of our customers will be following the fiber optics. Thus, we would like to provide them with that, such throughput levels, such as 1 megabyte per household and megabytes per a commercial customer. And so from the point of view of optimization of infrastructure, the second most important element is virtualization of our network. Yes, and that calls for the kind of solution which would reduce the cost of owning the infrastructure, as well as achieve the task of reducing our headcount and reducing the labor intensity in what we do. The third most important element in optimizing our network is unification of the service models by bringing them to a single standard, which would enable us, together with the unification of IT platform and IT landscape, to provide a single customer service standard, and in this way to offer a high level of connectivity within the shortest time possible, where we are trying to achieve 60–70% of connections, which we'll be able to do within 24 hours after an application, and to achieve a greater share of services and product which customers will be able to select and to integrate themselves. Another element which I've partially mentioned, virtualization. By this we mean both the virtualization of the infrastructural elements such as telephony, as well as virtualization of our networks, as well as the possibility to offer various commercial services, where we already had this the ability to offer the VDI solution to the customers, which is the remote workplace based on the customer infrastructure, where we plan to seriously promote ourselves in developing these technologies as part of our network offering. Now, in as far as IT landscape is concerned, one can note three important key elements. The first one, we launched the project for unifying our billing, so that we will switch to a single billing solution throughout the whole country, with the possibility to integrate all of the products into a single invoice. Further on, that would help us to amass this very convenient ecosystem for the customer use. Alongside with this program, we offer the throughput single CRM solutions in working with the private businesses, with the corporate and government sector. And the third element, it is very important to provide for this throughput integration with the networking infrastructure, which calls for a high level of technical activation of services, which, along with the unification at the level of infrastructure, will enable us to provide such a single service model, a single set of products and the single service models. So the second important element to support our platform-based approach in order for us to be able to expediently interact with our technology partners and build their solutions into our product line, into our ecosystem, and into our billing, is establishing a component-based infrastructure of our IT landscape, which is called formed when switching to a single billing and CRM solutions, and the technical ordering, with an ability to offer universal IP interfaces, so that in a very quick way and very dynamically we could build the products into the ecosystem, which is particularly important for our with the way we interact with the new startups, which makes it possible very quickly understand how well any product may fit, how interested our customers may be in it. The third important element, we were talking about customization of various approaches in terms of the employee interaction. The same kind of requirements we see on the customer side. Customization of the offering is something that customers really are keen to receive. So an important element to work like that. For that, we create a single and a customer knowledge base, where we will be starting this purpose-specific analytics in order to be able to offer more flexible solutions, more flexible terms of interaction with us as a vendor. The fourth very important element, yes, we have achieved some great results in improving our business efficiency during the past few years, but we also see quite a big potential to improve for the next strategy timeframe. It is important for us, and I mean, it is important to you as well, because you've been observing us for a few years, and 2017 was quite a milestone in terms of transiting into the stage of an active business growth, but nevertheless we continue to feel a certain pressure upon our profit margins due to the structural changes in the revenue. But nevertheless, we set ourselves quite a big goal in the foreseeable future to achieve stability in our profit margin and to switch over to a no less aggressive growth in terms of our financial performance and the revenue by improving operational efficiency. Yes, here we've got a whole set of initiatives and processes. We've got the Rostelecom production system, which is on the base of the lean system. We have established a laboratory where various ideas about the way we should optimize and improve our efficiency are being tested with subsequent scaling. We have the Operation Efficiency Improvement Program, where we fund bigger initiatives called upon to reduce our operational expenses. So in this way, we set ourselves different goals and objectives, and specifically within the strategy time frame, to achieve a slowdown and to keep the expenses level in order to stabilize the profit margin in our operations and guarantee attractive financial return. But alongside with that, we are changing the way we organize our decision-making processes, the analytics for viability of different products and services, investment control. We did a big job in further fine-tuning our regional offices and operations in order to eliminate duplication, so that the internal and external customers can find it easy to understand and easy to work together and to eliminate any superfluous expenses and costs. Now, speaking about real estate, we often hear questions about it. What is it that you see in the future for yourselves in as far as this market segment is concerned? Here we see a lot of potential in reducing the real estate by additional 20% in terms of what we have to have. Well, quite obviously, the easiest results already have been exhausted, and so further work requires a more scrupulous attention by bringing in industrial and financial partners into this effort. But we are very much aware, and we clearly see what are the real estate measures that we need to undertake. We see a good potential to further divest in a threat or improve efficiency by various leasing solutions. So eventually that would enable us to reduce our operational expenses within the strategy timeframe and at least save 1 billion rubles in operating this real estate pool. Now, speaking about the kind of investments which we are planning to direct into developing and implementing this strategy, it is important to note that there is a shift of our focus taking place from the amount of investments in terms of the expansive kind of a development which we used to demonstrate not during the past year but as part of the previous strategy, when we were trying to actively win positions in the broadband market. So we're scaling our measures, and we are focusing more upon the efficiency improvement, something that I mentioned in as far as our processes and our infrastructure are concerned. And we're also growing the number of spending which we apply to new product development, new competence acquisition, and by creating the kind of the launching pad, so to say, which within this new strategy will act as a serious multiplier within the midterm outlook, something that Vladimir mentioned towards the end of his part of the presentation. And I guess one of the most interesting elements that will be the destination for the strategy in terms of the kind of targets that we set ourselves in developing our business. We believe and we consider that we will be able to achieve the business growth and the revenue at the level of 4 or 5% if we look at the 5-year time frame. Annually, the average annual growth rate, we will stabilize, as I previously said, our EBITDA margin, and we'll keep it at the level of at least 32%. And within the strategy time frame, we will come to the level of capex in terms of the revenue at 17% level, which will create a very stable business model, a functioning model, and further will create the potential for the next effort and milestones for our development. Now, let me pass the microphone over to Mikhail Aseyev for the concluding word. Yes, dear friends, well, I guess these have been certain basic figures, and we can see that the company revenue by 2022 at the level of 375 billion rubles. I would also like to mention that during these 5 years we would lose approximately 40 billion rubles of revenue from the traditional fixed line telephony, because it is being eroded, and that would require growth not at the level of 70 billion rubles but at the level of 110. So we're setting ourselves some ambitious objectives. This strategy is not calling for any major M&A deals. Well, quite possibly they may emerge, I mean major ones in terms of the way they may affect our strategy or our basic operational and financial performance. Without doubt, such opportunities shall manifest themselves, which will require us to adjust our strategy, which is quite a normal process. And once again, going back to what is Rostelecom strategy, I suppose there is another definition, at least I see it myself. This is a strategy for global partnerships, because in order to be able to meet customer needs in a broader palette of products and services, we certainly shall work with a great number of partners. We will work based on the sharing model, we will select the strongest, and Rostelecom itself will turn into a big ecosystem. So our strategy is the strategy of a global partnership with companies coming from all the different walks of the industry. Now, before we switch to the most interesting topic, which is the dividends, let me speak shortly about something else. Vladimir drew our attention to the priority in our strategy, which is cybersecurity. We are indeed in the very eye of this storming phenomenon, and we've gone through the election, and the biggest component was the online video imaging. We had our cameras installed at 40,000 election sites. That was open access, and we were preparing ourselves for cyber attacks, and they took place, some very serious ones. I mentioned them previously. So information security is the kind of reality that you have to be aware of every day, not only at the level of your company, but also at the level of every separate individual, because in the end of the day, a criminal would like to spoil something, if you talk about DDoS attacks, and corrupt some kind of services, or wreak havoc or create damage for the government. And speaking about personal security, encroach upon our personal money, because every smartphone has banking applications, which is very much tasty, delicious, sort of a hamburger that everybody wants to bite off. So we asked you to register in our area, and 85% of those present here have a banking application, but only 10 of you have antivirus software installed on your smartphone, which is not really good, because in sort of household lingo, it's information hygiene, data hygiene. There is such a buzzword, and so we suggest that everybody should maintain this parity. We have analyzed various anomalies in the data streams to and out of your smartphones. And we can tell you that inside 16 mobile devices, we identified different malware. I mean, it is a different kind of malware. Let me not run the list of it, because you can. We had a QR code somewhere. I mean, in 16 devices out of 40 almost of the devices have problems. So after we finish our work here, you can come to these young people at this stand over there, and they will tell you whether you've got problems or not, and what kind of nature of the problems that you have, and how you can get rid of them. So please remember that we're all the subject of criminal effort. And so we believe that the basics of the information security should be taught at the elementary schools. So this is the same thing as a traffic safety, a road safety. Well, excuse me for this deviation. Now back to one of the most important and interesting topics for the market, which is our dividend policy. Will it load up? Well, I suppose you, being the professionals, do remember it, because it was adopted several years ago, and it was quite ambitious, which undoubtedly put Rostelecom into the category of the companies with a very attractive dividend policy, because the dividend yield has notably grown, which is good and which is proper, because to some very significant extent the Rostelecoms and telecoms stocks in the Russian market as well as in the global market are being considered in the first place based upon such a criteria. So we would like to provide consistency with the established dividend policy. Is it somewhere towards the end? Well, that is why, by way of our main target, we keep being able to pay at least 75% from the free cash flow. But at the same time, we would like to make our dividend policy more stable and predictable. We see that the volatilities are quite strong, and so we will guarantee a minimum payment per ordinary share at the level not less than 5 rubles per share, which should support our market in case of some significant instabilities. And on top of it, we would anticipate that our payments are going to be limited to 100% of IFRS profit. Within our model, for the next 5 years, 75% of the free cash flow in a guaranteed way against the normal situation would go into this corridor. Our model also envisages growth of the free cash flow and the net profit growth. So overall, we are quite sure that not only will we be able to guarantee minimum yield at the level of 5 rubles, but also that it will grow along with our financial performance. So with that, allow me to conclude this short, well, not very short presentation and begin the Q&A session. Dear colleagues, if anybody would like to answer a question, please, I will give you the microphone. Introduce yourself, please. Alexander Vindranovich, Sava Capital. I've got two questions. The first one is about your CAPEX program. Looking at your targets, I see that you are planning to reduce the CAPEX share in your revenue down to 17% without taking into account government federal projects. So I would like to ask you to speak in detail about the government projects. Do you have an understanding how significant CAPEX may be for various projects, government-related projects, and what is the way that you evaluate the efficiency in these additional projects? My second question is about specifically the 5G network development, because you are planning a trial test here. So I would like to understand, how do you see the role of Rostelecom in developing the 5G network in Russia? Do you believe that you're going to be one of the players, or do you believe that it will be a united network and you will act as its operator? I'd like to understand your current attitude. All right, thank you very much. Now, with respect to the government program, well, the biggest long-term one is the elimination of the digital divide program, which will run for several years to come. Let me remind you that it anticipates connecting 14,000 townships. We have connected half of them. Allocations and the federal budgets are there at the level of 12 to 13 to 14 billion rubles annually. It is a priority program, and at the same time we do not see any risks here from the point of view of its continuity. Moreover, we have certain thoughts about the way it may develop further, because one of the most important priorities in the digital economy program, penetration of internet by 2022 at a level of more than 90% of the population in this country, and so we think that there are townships with a bigger population which do require such a government support. But there is a number of other projects such as healthcare and hospitals, which will continue through 2018 and 19. The allocations in the budget into this program are at the level of 10 billion rubles. And another very important program, which is just about starting being debated, is connecting to high-speed internet, connecting Russian schools to high-speed internet, because the schools, particularly in rural areas or outside of the bigger cities, are copper-connected, and the speeds there are very disgusting, in some cases 64 kilobytes per second. So it is evident that to develop modern digital education is impossible. So this is quite a comprehensive program. It is just about to be to start being debated, as I said, but we're quite confident that it will be done with Rostelecom's involvement. Now, speaking about the 5G network, here we've got two views. The first one, and we see it through what the major global telecoms do, everybody entertains a very pragmatic approach to deploying new technologies, because the 4G network potential so far hasn't yet been fully utilized, and so it is quite evident that these will be deployed in the biggest megapole, and not immediately, but in those parts of it which are characterized by big flow of information, but at the same time there is an already existing big need for them. But considering the fact that that financing the development of such networks is dramatically bigger than of the previous generations, we believe it is necessary to set up a single infrastructure. On more than one occasion, it has been mentioned previously, and we are of an opinion that Rostelecom will be able to perform the function of an infrastructure operator by providing equal access to all the companies which will have respective licenses, and that is exactly why we develop competences in-house. We work together with the leading international majors, and I'd like to remind you that the area that we're going to present to you, we have set it up together with Nokia. Very soon in the Innopolis, we will present a similar kind of a project that we do together with Huawei, and during this St. Petersburg International Economic Forum we will present a project in the Hermitage Museum, the one which we do together with Ericsson. So our intention is to develop a single technological infrastructural platform for the 5G network to be launched. Thank you. Sergey Levin, Raiffeisen Bank. My first question is about your dividend policy. Which points in it are of priority to you? I mean, in order to be able to pay more than 5 rubles per share, if you will have to pay more than 100% of your net profit, will you still go for it? 5 rubles is the priority. Thank you. And my second question is more about the way the dividend base is calculated. Are you going to take into account, as far as your FCF is concerned, investments into government projects, investments into the government projects that are not listed in your guidance? You see, traditionally, and as far as the current methodology is concerned, investment into the government projects are not accounted for, and the approach and the methodology that we used to adhere to, we will continue using it. Thank you. Any more questions, please? Hello, Dmitry Ryshkov. I'm BKSR trader. Very quick 3 questions. At present, the biggest assets of Rostelecom, 45% in Tele2, 15% of the fixed line operation. Unfortunately, your strategy didn't mention anything about the way you will be growing your capitalization. Do you have any plans to grow your market cap? If so, what are they, and what are the departments in the company which will be responsible for that? Well, naturally, the key area of our investment and the key entity which is important for our strategy to be achieved is Tele2. And here there is no single division. I can tell you that the board of directors effectively includes half of the management board of Rostelecom, and we collaborate and interact in all issues, be it a technical, product, marketing, or security issue. And during the past 12 months, the level of such an operational interaction and interoperability has advanced itself strongly. Tele2 recently reported on its results, because basically you see these figures. I'm sure that you can add 2 and 2 together and see the way the value of our stock changed. We see that Tele2, based on the results of the first 2 months, is very strongly in the black. I don't want to really run ahead of the time, but overall we see that the company is moving along the right track, although still there is some negative aftermath of entering into the market during a difficult period, like the depreciation of the ruble and the external economic environment. Speaking about investments into other companies, they are not so sensitive. This year we are planning to undertake a very considerable optimization of our subsidiaries and sub-subsidiaries by considerably reducing their numbers. The majority of the operational entities which we've acquired during the past few years are going to be incorporated into Rostelecom structure, and that is where we see quite a strong synergy effect. Thank you very much. One other question, it is about MSCI and the exclusion of Rostelecom from SCI index in November last year. The company has lost considerably in its market cap, which is quite regrettable. It has left this index, the one which had such icon companies such as Bank and Rostelecom at the point in time when it was excluded. The market cap was 21, and now it is about 3 billion US. So, principally speaking, the question is this: do you plan to bring Rostelecom back into the MSCI index and bring back, revitalized this way, the interest in the country, both on the part of the passive funds and the Western funds? Well, of course, we are quite disappointed by the fact that the company had to leave this index, but objectively one has to concede that it is not us who decide whether we should be included or excluded. But it is obvious that there have been two tracks that the stock price has been moving along, at least during the time I've been working in Rostelecom. The first one was related to my appointment, and to a considerable extent the market viewed this as a positive signal about the immediate acquisition by Rostelecom of a controlling share in Tele2, or even 100% stock acquisition. Now, considering the matrices that Tele2 had in 2017, certainly the feeling amongst the analysts reflected upon the valuation of our company. On more than one occasion, I used to say that this particular issue is not part of the agenda. All of the shareholders are very much focused upon developing Tele2 and the results which the company is demonstrating. Both is the consequence of very effective interaction between shareholders as well as proper management work. So such a loss in stock value coincided certainly with the time when the index structure was being reviewed. We are disappointed by having to leave it, but nevertheless we believe that, considering the kind of performance that Rostelecom demonstrated last year, we've been able to enter into the trajectory, as we believe, of a stable growth, both in terms of operational and financial performances. Our revenue has grown, our free cash flow has grown, the net profit has grown, and so we believe that these are good signals which can be eagerly supported by the market. So we shall undertake all the necessary effort to provide investors with additional confidence and hope that Rostelecom is a good stock to hold and invest into. Thank you. And my last question is, I guess, about dividends. There are three principles: 75% from free cash flow, the amount of dividend payments at least to 45 billion within 3 years, and the third one, I guess, growing dividend payout year in, year out. Now, looking at 2015, the payment was 5.92 rubles per share, in 16, 5.38, and in 17, 4.86. So, my question is, either... Well, I mean, we haven't yet paid anything for 2017. Well, I mean, this is what you plan. How do you know how we plan? I mean, the market is planning this for you. I guess the market is expecting this. Well, we currently live in the paradigm of the previously established dividend policy, which we're going to adhere to. As I said, it is very important for us to demonstrate continuity, so we will target for at least 75% from free cash flow. Now, in terms of what kind of payment there will be based on the results of 2017, there's not long to wait. So, in due process, we will definitely introduce these proposals into the Russian Property Fund. It would also be considered by the Board of Directors and endorsed by the General Shareholders Meeting. Thank you. Well, you should, ladies first, make ladies first. Where do we have ladies here? building to ask a question. All right. Good afternoon, Alexei Gershakov, the Solidarność Bank. I would like to ask a question, which is about further development of relationship. In October last year, you said that as far as Central Telegraph Company is concerned, you were planning to sell its main asset, which is its office building on the Tverskaya Street, but that quite possibly before it happens, the Central Telegraph business is going to be reorganized by first separating the digital business and the second part of it, which is the real estate ownership. Could you tell us what is the status right now? Because we heard then that there were some negotiations and that there were buyers interested to buy it. Together with the leading shareholders and our partners in the Central Telegraph Company, are currently busy with executing this project. In terms of the real estate, it is a bit difficult because there are many owners. There is also a government as an owner. So preparing it for a potential sale or putting it into the format of an investment project requires a lot of effort and an ability to work hand in hand with a lot of players. But nevertheless, I would say that we're moving along. It is premature to say that in 2018 something may occur. One has to remember that this is a cultural legacy facility in terms of the architectural buildings in Moscow that have to be safeguarded and consequently have to be cleared in terms of what happens to it through the Moscow government authority in terms of what will happen to it. So we want to really put a lot of quality into this whole work. And could you share any indications to us, let's say that it may happen in 2019? Well, this is not the project for 2018, definitely. It won't be completed in 2018. And one little additional question about your dividends. Could you please tell us, more and more companies start to pay dividends not once a year, but once a quarter, once in half a year, as applied to Rostelecom. Is there any consideration? Yes, yes, we're thinking about it. And we do understand that paying dividend twice a year does have its certain advantages as well as disadvantages, but we are very seriously thinking about it. Thank you. Thank you. Olga Bystrova, Credit Suisse. 3 questions. The first is about vital mobile topic. Whenever you talk about infrastructure, about Rostelecom participating in 5G, you are talking about active access to active infrastructure or to passive infrastructure, mobile infrastructure. And I suppose one additional question, principally, conceptually, how do you see your strategy in the mobile business longer term? Are you planning to be a big player, or do you want to be a player for operators primarily? So how are we to perceive it? And the second question about the data centers, quite obviously, you have got a very strong position now, and simultaneously we hear this continued debate about anti-terrorism. Are you engaged in any active discussions with the mobile operators and the government about your direct involvement in, I guess, the enactment of this legislation? And the last question about the corporate segment. Well, evidently a lot has already been done this year. In 2017, when it was done. How do you see this segment growing into the future? Through organic demand for such services? Do you believe that you will be able to utilize some of your competitive advantages compared to other operators and take their market share? Yes, I thank you very much for your question. From the point of view of the operators market, because our project is called an operator for operators, because we identify ourselves as a partner to the big 3 operators. We're not planning to go out into the mobile services market as a big operator. First of all, this providing services to the fiber optics and providing services to the sites. So this is the watershed at which we believe our commitment should end. Quite possibly, we will be developing the infrastructural areas in as far as the acquisition of additional acquisition for mobile sites is concerned, upgrading them. In as far as what our customers require, we interpret and perceive the big troika as our potential customers. They would be providing what they need to us, and we will provide our support to them. In terms of the corporate segment, we believe that this is a real driver, a real locomotive behind the development of the companies. We identify an enormous opportunity for our revenue growth. If for a long period of time we were interpreting our customers as consumers of telephone and broadband access, currently we have completed the full cycle. On top of the broadband, we can protect it with the crypto routers, which is VPN. After VPN, we'll be moving into the data processing center, storage and virtualization. We will achieve a multiple growth in terms of revenue. After that, we will go into the application program and will host in our data centers corporate information systems, external vendor systems. We will add here the service model inside an operatorship, inside a customer, by deploying an infrastructure, computing capacities, the information security, as a whole cycle of things. So we'll see a double-digit growth, which is written into the strategy, and the current actual double-digit growth per key customers, which are in our B2B portfolio. So the comprehensiveness of this particular model will multiply increase the potential funnel, which we identify as an IT. So we go not into the classical IT communication, classical telecommunication services, into IT and digital services, which embrace the needs of our customers. In as far as legislative initiatives were concerned, was the second question. We are mindful of the kind of the decisions that the regulators will make. We have a number of competencies which is well known to the market, and they are conditional in terms of our data centers as the communication channels and the infrastructure competency. If the regulatory initiative will move towards the places where these services are going to be in demand, we will be more than eager to offer them under a very convenient model, both to our partners and to the government. Thank you. And a more specific question about mobile infrastructure. Whenever you talk about services to operators, do you mean the trunk channels or the towers? No, the towers, but servicing them only. We're not planning to build them. We would be servicing the existing operator infrastructure, upgrading them within the existing model, because if we talk about the 5G network, we believe it is quite rational for the whole infrastructure to be deployed legally by Rostelecom. And in as far as the fifth generation is concerned, we will soon move out into the lobby. Please note, whenever we say operator to operators, it's aggregation of two frequency ranges. But colleagues will tell you more about it, because that makes it possible by using the single infrastructure. You can transmit signals into different sequences and consequently to different operators. Thank you. Tatiana Volachkovich, Morgan Stanley. A very quick question. Your new strategy, does it anticipate any changes into the management incentivization? If so, which ones? Well, I would like to remind us about the currently existing approach. We've got a very complex key performance indication systems, being the executives in the government company, which, amongst other things, is based upon TSR and ROE and OIBDA and the free cash flow there as well. But by way of the incentivization instruments, we use the model with paying bonuses in the form of shares. So this is the kind of an arrangement which has been there for the past 3 years, and it will continue further being developed. So these shares are already being allocated in the special fund. We are waiting now for the respective decision by the board, and all of these transactions will take place. I suppose from the previous 3 years, this program covers not only the management board level or the N-1 grades. It also includes several hundred employees, not only at the headquarters but also in the regions. So this emphasis upon linking it to capitalization is very much straightforward, and we're very much interested in having the company rejoin the indices and for the value of the stock to grow. Vladimir mentioned as one of the most important elements of the success of the strategy is the quality of the customer service. And it is unfortunately hasn't been in the focus, but currently it is one of the top key performance indicators for everyone, starting from the senior executives and below. In 2018, we are willing to very seriously progress in terms of the way our customers perceive and value us. Yes, thank you, Mr. Igor Goncharov, BKS. Several questions. First of all, about the dividends, another question I would like to raise. As part of the previous dividend policy, there was a certain limitation in terms of the level of debt, 2.5 to EBITDA. So the current debt to EBITDA ratio, your policy, will there be any limitation in terms of, yes, there's limitation, whatever we had in the previous dividend policy, they will stay. But I would like to note separately that we entertain a very conservative approach on our debt policy. Our financial model doesn't allow to step out of the debt to EBITDA ratio being 2.5. We are targeting 1.7, 1.8 by 2022, but the bar remains at 2.5, which is significantly higher than the current level. And I also have a question about Tele2. You mentioned several times, well, I may be mistaken in the specific quotation, but you mentioned that your priorities in working with Tele2 is identifying operational synergies rather than any proprietary transactions in the forthcoming future. Now, with respect to the operational synergies with Tele2, within your strategy, have you evaluated their scale? How much can you save or earn based on the fact that you've got such a good brotherly asset? And let me raise a third question, which is about 5G. If I understood correctly, you said that you see quite good rationale in order to develop a single network based on Rostelecom's capacity. Who will be spending money to develop this network? Would it mean that Rostelecom will be spending money to develop this network, or somehow this spending is going to be shared? What is the model that will govern this spending, and what is the scale of such a spending? Well, there are two models that we see. The first one is the service kind of a model, when an infrastructure is being developed at the expense of Rostelecom, and then the investments are being recouped by including this into regular payments. Option number two, establishing a single vehicle, a single company, into which we may contribute our network infrastructure, and partners will make monetary contributions. But we're currently not going through the discussion of such details. Just consultations are happening between LTE market players and the government. So this is just a fork road in terms of the way the Russian market would evolve into the future. There is no set option. It may be a single platform, or, as used to be the case, each operator will develop it independently, which is absolutely rational, of course, from the point of view of the market interest and the consumer interest and the companies themselves, because spending here would be colossal. Well, maybe I should add, in as far as the Tele2 and synergy is concerned, 2017 demonstrated several ways of the way our relationship with Tele2 may develop. First of all, leasing channels, then building fiber optical channels, because for Rostelecom this is the key core competency. For the big three mobile operators, as a rule, they go out into the market, and every time they waste a lot of time in order to exploit expand the channel in order to achieve the maximum connectivity within the infrastructure. We resolved this whole issue for ourselves in 2017. All of the Tele2 channels are being serviced by Rostelecom, so we will be adding capacities, we will be creating the necessary backup capacities. This is the first option. The second option is a retail network, because we see the possibility to combine retail. We are running pilot project in 2018, so there will be several dozens of new stores co-branded Rostelecom and Tele2, and our customers will be able to receive Tele2 services as well as the fixed line and additional services from Rostelecom. I suppose the third and the main area of our synergy cooperation is the fixed mobile convergency, whereby the packages could be combined and the offerings could be combined for our customers. Let me repeat, we started piloting this in December 2017. The first half year we are allocating to define the optimum model, and later on we will be scaling it out. So these are the main synergy efforts. But consistently, have we ever assessed the possible effect? No, we didn't do that, because it is of a dual nature. There is direct savings and there are a certain qualitative part to it. FMC experience leads to one achieving an advantage not in revenue but in retaining the customers. It is no secret that for mobile operators the black outflow, the churn outflow is dozens of thousands, but by combining such services you are able to achieve a much greater decline in the churn. So once we do this FMC in full, we will see how much savings we may achieve for the company, for both of us. Thank you. So let me suggest that the official Q&A session should be completed by having Anna Kazaren from VTB Capital asking her question. Thank you. In 2017, you had some very good revenue growth in B2G segment, and to the extent I understand, in 2018 it shall continue growing through different government and regional municipal projects, the smart city projects, and connecting healthcare institutions. So the question is then, how good is the profit margin in this segment? What do you think about the profitability that you may derive from this expansion? And my second question, some time ago, Rostelecom has been debating changing the interconnecting rates between Rostelecom and the mobile operators. Is it still an issue? Are you still having negotiations about it? Let me begin with the second interconnecting topic. No, there hasn't been any debates about it recently because certain economic transformation took place. Nevertheless, neither with us nor with the government, this is something that we are looking at. Speaking about our work with the government is becoming more and more prudent and rational. I would like to remind us that last year a decision was made to appoint Rostelecom as a single executor to provide communication services to the federal authorities and agencies. Many of them are switching over to a single contract with us. Previously, there used to be many different contracts within every different territory. So the government is a very demanding customer and a client, the one who naturally wants to see the price go down. We are aware of it, and we are naturally ready to hear this. So this kind of a market situation requires from us to reduce our costs, and so the technologies that were enumerated above, the automated networks and virtualization, enables us to maintain an acceptable level of our profit margin. So let's go and launch the 5G. Well, with your permission, we would like to introduce the 5G trial zone. So let's go back to that nice place with hamburgers, where we will take up an additional 30 minutes of your time. After that, we will be able to have an informal kind of interaction with each other.